happens to be recorded. And that's all that's happening. Welcome to the Nonsensus. I'm here with Sanjana Singh, we are not in the same location on the planet, and we are not at the same registry of the range of human emotions and states. How are you doing, Sanj?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm very elevated, I would say. So my mood is very elevated. I feel very good about myself. And I would say that I'm quite in a hypomanic state, but not in a full blown, hypomanic state that I actually go into psychosis.
Is that that's just that's something that it always happens? It always goes into psychosis, or is what? And how do you know when you're having psychosis? If you're aware of it, and
So when I'm hypomanic, usually I'm able to recognize it as soon as it begins, because you just know that everything is going too well, and everything is going too well, you know, like everything seems hyper. So it's like everything is just a little bit too much good, and it seems like that, right? And so psychosis happens when the entire too much thing happens way too much. I've had only like two psychotic episodes that I can talk about, but I don't usually go into psychosis straight away. I have um, if I'm in psychosis, I know that I'm either hallucinating or something's going on.
mm, mm. How's that different from a good mood?
Usually, if I'm not even kidding, I'm not able to tell these days whether I am like in a good mood or whether I'm hypomanic. Something I'm still trying to figure out. I feel like I'm in the state where I'm still trying to see as to what my disability or disorder, whatever this is whatever it actually is and how it manifests. So whenever I'm in a good mood, which happens to be quite often, I feel like I am hypomanic. But it's usually like day 4, if I'm just like really happy for like 4 days, maybe 5, then I know that I probably should check in and see whether I am whether I'm in mania or not. And
That's something that can be told for sure. Is it a brain scan thing, or you just meet a
I,
criteria of behaviors? And
it's a criteria of behaviorism. Yeah.
I do wonder what our lives would be like without the awareness of and without the nouns and acronyms that we give these things.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I I would call myself in a depressive episode. It's been several days of the other than if I were to caffeinate or something else to give exogenous energy. There's there's not much genuine energy or enthusiasm. There's desires, you know. That's really depressed is I don't even want anything to change. I don't even want anything. I wouldn't I'm not there. I'm like this shit sucks and I am not interested in doing the things that I would need to do to make it suck less. So let's just let time go by and hope that I don't feel this way forever, because that would be a shitty life.
I feel you, because as soon as my good days are over, I fall into this depressive episode, and it happens all the time. It's crazy. So I wake up one day and I'm just like, I hate existence. Like that's literally how my depressive episodes start. Like I'm just like, I hate existence. I'm just staying in my bed and I'm not moving at all. So that's how you can differentiate between sadness and depression, because sadness is more like I feel low, but depression is like you don't want to get up, you don't want to do anything because you're just like really not feeling it. Um, and that happens to me literally almost every time I have any hypomanic episode. As soon as it just like it's done, next day I'm just like I can't do I can't deal with anything. So I would usually like deactivate my socials and not message back people for like a week because I just don't even want to see my phone. So that's how I would know that I'm in a very depressive episode. If I'm not replying to text, if my phone is far away from me and I just don't want to do anything with my phone, which means that I don't want to be connected to the cybernet, to people, that I cut myself off completely. That's how I know that things are getting bad.
Yeah, object in motion tends to stay in motion. An object that is in a depressive episode tends to want to get into the feedback loop of making your life a little worse by not attending to the things that you need to attend to. And now before you know it, you've got a reason to be sad. You've got good, strong arguments that this shit sucks.
Yeah.
I feel a not aloneness and camaraderie in your saying that some days I hate existence, because that is really how I would say it. But I just when I do think that there is some nobility in not there is straight up nobility in not spilling your negative emotion into the world and like just bringing others to where you are. But there is a point where it's like, come on now, we can say it. We can say it. Some days I hate existence. I think that this seems, I look at the whole thing and I think, wow, man, I have more evidence and a stronger case that this is like, it dangles a carrot, it stabs you in the heart. It dangles the carrot, it fucking punches you in the face. This is not satisfaction, contentment, place. This is strive, and for what? And and those sort of loops, I do feel that way, not just sometimes, I would say often, but I also get better at knowing at executing what I think is a better ratio of not being dishonest about how disinterested I feel and depressed often, but not doing the thing where I'm spilling more negativity into this world or bringing others to my level because misery loves company, which sometimes that's the most intimate thing though. Misery loving company, that's such a bonding thing. Two people being miserable together. Not like how you plan the day. You want to get together and just be miserable.
I mean, I've had those relationships with, like, I would say recently enough. I've cut them off though because it just got too depressing. But I've had those relationships with like two people that I know, that I would just like, they would like constantly like text me about like how their life is going to shit, and I will be texting them back as to how my life is going to shit. So it just kind of like balances off. Like it's just this weird energy of everything going into shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just bond in it because you feel as if, okay, whatever I am feeling, this other person in front of me is also feeling. And so they can better understand as to what I'm going through. Whereas if I'm in a happy mood, or let's say I'm hypomanic, and someone sends me, like, I don't feel good, like, someone's watching me 24, like some fucking weird shit, and I would be like, yeah, like, okay, like my responses wouldn't be elaborate. Yeah.
Yeah, they would. Well, because you just be speaking in platitudes. Sometimes when you're sad, you just gotta, be not sad, because Sometimes, and when you're actually in there with him, it's more like, yeah, maybe existence does look like a fucking nightmare loop sometimes, but we're here and we're not going to feel like this forever or even usually long. In fact, it is true what is said that one of the ways this is said is you got to feel it to heal it. That might be a bit hippy dippy cloud flower for some people. So I'll say that by acknowledging that you are, let's say, sad, um, let's say devastated, that by acknowledging that you are absolutely devastated, or that you're having the feeling of hating existence, that the acknowledgement and the time spent really feeling that out is the actual quickest, I don't want to use the word natural because what the fuck does that mean? But like endogenous in your own, like you're drawing from your own wellspring, instead of doing drugs about it, which some of those work every time, but you can't be doing drugs about your problems all your life. That's you gotta, but anyway, yeah, the you gotta feel it to heal it thing. I do experience that. It's like you can drag something out a long time, but without just doing it. And it's this interesting little thing. I have a friend that does. In fact, I'm taking this beautiful coat off because I don't fucking feel like I should be adorning a beautiful coat at this moment. I'm gonna lean into my own feeling fucking misanthropic. It's this interesting thing. I used to talk with my friend Chris Roscoe about shadow work a lot, and like that's like his whole deal. And like, what is the actual experience of trying to process an emotion? Like, and I do experience that there really is this thing about just like when something comes up, when something strikes a nerve, instead of the knee jerk that is so common, the many ways we swat things away. We don't just swat things away by like doing drugs about it or engaging in some stimulating activity that distracts. There's all of these mechanisms of like, one of the ways is lying to ourselves. Is like it's so common in the human condition to lie to yourself. And one of the big common ones that I see is that when someone is deprived of something, or something is withheld from them, and they're actually really hurt about it, they'll come up with a lie in their head that I didn't actually want that, and that they're disinterested. And sometimes it's so obvious, and it's like if you just take the time to straight up sequester yourself and feel the feeling of you really actually wanted that a lot and it just didn't happen, and that timeline is closed, or say that individual is the ship of the thing that you desired, of the relationship, of the career opportunity, of the whatever the fuck it was, or straight up a person who died. Like you have to actually sit and be like, that's gone. That hurts, doesn't it? And then that's actually can be the quickest route to feeling better about it, or letting it sit amongst the symphony of your emotional sensations in a way that isn't so blaring and gripping of your attention.
What I usually try to do in these, I wouldn't say episodes, but like in these states of mood, is be creative with it so I can feel good about it. Or like I can be content with whatever I'm feeling, and not like be, I don't know, like angry with myself for being in that state, or just like not being okay with myself. What I would do is like I would just take my notebook and I would just like start writing whatever is just coming into my head. I'm just writing. And if I'm like angry or something like that, if things are going too bad, I'll just write it out. And some of it honestly is pure art, because it's like you're feeling those emotions and you're better able to like take them out. But like the sometimes it's just, you know just stuff written there, like you're just like, yeah, I'm not feeling good because XYZ. Doesn't make much sense, but a lot of times what I have observed is that you do get these amazing quotes or like piece of art, if you may, from these depressive musings of yours. So when I'm feeling very good, of course I'm writing like all of these things which make all the sense and poetry and whatnot. But when I'm depressed, it's another level of art. I don't know, like it's just that state of mind encapsulates something which is very deep, or which seems very deep. Like it like hits you basically. So you read it and you're like, damn, but when I'm like in a happy state and I'm writing something, it's more like creativity and whatever. But when I'm in a depressive state and I'm writing something and it like seems like this is the state that I resemble with the most, it has depth. The whole thing that I write has depth to it, and you can realize that depth if you read it. You're just like, oh shit, like just like makes you feel as if, wow, that is what I am going through.
It's interesting that writing can be this magical key. Like books can be a magical key to like having a whole new lens on your reality, a reality rubric, I like to say. But what is it when you write? You're arranging words. We're just arranging these pre-existing uh, codex that points to mouth sounds, whether it's a pictographic language or an alphabetical. It's like we're just arranging these things that already existed. Yeah, I mean, it's undoubtedly creative, right? Somebody writes a book, that's creative. It's not a jigsaw puzzle. Uh, it's not just stacking some things in a uniform way, but it is arranging of these words, which sometimes are so not magical. They're so fucking dead sometimes, and you see the deadness of words when you try to describe something that is very, very visceral and alive, or certain things that I would call perhaps transcendent. You try to write about them, and you see that these words are inadequate. But then also there are poems and lyrics and books that are magical spells. It's pretty interesting.
I mean, I recently wrote something about, yeah, here's my phone, unrecruited love, and it was deep stuff. I'm trying to find if I can find it on here and read it, but it just really like encapsulated the entire feeling of having one-sided love. So this concept of one-sided love is so deep because and Jacques Lacan, who was this French psychoanalyst, he would call it the object petit a. So an unattainable object of desire. So you're continuously desiring this thing, but it's never going to be yours. So that kind of love is it's beautiful, yet it's also dangerous at the same time. Like if you rely on it to feel good about yourself, or like to feel like better, in the sense that, let's say there's a hypothetical person here and I'm just like not, I wouldn't say obsessed, but like I'm fully immersed in enjoying the reality that I share with this person, or the reality that he or she or they or them, whatever, happens to be in, and so whenever this kind of attraction happens, it's, I don't know, art just flows out, because you're kind of like denied. Your desire is, very deep down that it's a dream. It's almost like a fairy tale, that this desire might be fulfilled, but at the same time you also hope that, you know, that this thing works out, that it's two-sided, not one-sided. And that confusion of, you know, thinking whether it is or it is not produces art. Like, because you are in such a mixed, confused, melancholic yet happy state.
Yeah, that I mean, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and I'm glad I've got to experience both sides of that at different times in life. Though when it was directed at me once, it got so extreme that there needed to be law enforcement brought into it. Like, and so I've learned a really great lesson from that, which is being able to put myself in the shoes of what it would be like to be somebody who, like, if I'm told to go away, I'm going to go away for the rest of my life. Or if it's just communicated to me clearly that this is not reciprocated, I know to back the fuck off. But being able to relate with having had it, like, because I've experienced my being the one with the unrequited love before, for sure. And what a torture chamber, man, to have your consciousness be unable to think about anything else than this person who is either outright rejected you, but usually no, that's not how the unrequited love thing goes. Usually is that there's one person that the person doesn't want to deliver the clean, clear coup de grace of, like, hey, your dreams and wishes for the us, no, dead, obsidian blade. And, you know, they'd say, I'll say sometimes to in my thoughts, and just like that, you know, the metaphor of twisting the blade. I think it's a really good imagery. It's like it's like because sometimes, you know, you've got a knife in someone, you know, like you know it, and you know what would turn it. You know what would turn it. You know what would gently ease it out. You know what would cauterize the wound. And sometimes us humans, man, we just and to be on the receiving end of that, oh, there's so many songs written about it. So many great songs. Great songs. The genre of Motown, which is the music of the metropolis in which I exist, Detroit. There's several songs. This weak heart of mine been broke 1,000 times, and he's saying like, if you leave me 1,000 times, I'll take you back. It's 100. And he's just like really like, please, this guy is like just like howling and like, I can't deal with how much I feel about you, and you're fucking just like torturing me, and I don't know, there's nothing I can do except just be available to, and maybe standing outside your window sort of stuff. Like, I wonder how people were back then, before there was any understanding of what well, not that there was no understanding, but there was more like, oh, look how romantic, this person is just stalking this person. You know, I think now it's like we'd have a more clear definition of, like, that's not romantic. You're stalking them. Leave them alone. And there's the song "Build Me Up, Buttercup." Why do you build me up, buttercup, baby, just to let me down and mess me around? And then worst of all, and it's just, yeah, it's like people have been in that state and had nothing to do but write a song about it. And that song has been, and some of those songs have been beloved. Run Around by Blues Traveler. Why you gotta give me run around? It's like, I'm only songs are coming up about from the male perspective, because there's a lot of those where it's like a dude just being like, you are fucking destroying me, and there's nothing I can do about it. I love you, and I am devoted to you as you twist the blade in my heart. God damn it.
It's hard. I found the thing that I wrote. I'll try to read it out. I'm so bad at reading poetry. I've realized that, like, there's I don't know, there's something very beautiful about reading poetry. Like, it has to be delivered in a right way. And I think I never do that. But I'll try. That's all I can do. But it's not even poetry, it's more like a prose, but it kind of like really gets to me in the sense that it, I don't know, it just makes a lot of sense when the one-sided love thing comes in.
I'm listening intently.
So it is. Here we go. Today my heart became a void for the third time in my life. There's a beauty in suffering, in what that Lacan guy, object petite would call an attainable objective desire. It's delusional, it's a fake promise and a smile. It's something that you keep telling yourself over and over again, that is, it might just be attainable. But what happens in the end? You pour yourself out until the bottom of the unattainable empties you. And let me tell you, emptiness is a funny thing. Very funny, actually. Not that you realized you dipped your toes into the mud, but also that the lotus belongs where it does. So, unrecruited love is a self assigned contract. You sign yourself into the uncertainty because you want to give yourself an oblivious certainty. An oblivious certainty that is love. Perhaps one of the most intoxicating immersion ever. They say that you become sort of an artist when you're heartbroken. I don't know if that's completely true, but I know that it is part of that contract. An artist is the only one that can find solace in uncertainty, as the emptiness weeps tears of craft, a carefully, much detailed piece of possession, memories. Dali painted the persistence of memory, and I like that its lucidity presents or puts forth the certainty of dreaming. Dreams and fantasies are so immersive that it keeps the lover locked into a well full of wine, and that wine I sip while I smile and say goodbye.
And you think I dreamt of a like tearful embrace with a dream character last night. Like I had this like one of those movie dreams, like with a full arc. It's hard to talk about it. I don't think that I had too much that because I remember I went back to sleep without writing it down with this thing that sometimes goes terribly wrong where it's like, I'm gonna remember that. Don't worry, I'm gonna remember that. I don't need to write that down, and then it's gone. I had an opportunity to do that, and then it went back for a morning nap where there was probably more dreams. But at some point in this dream, I remember one part of it at the beginning. We were deciding that we were going to go each get a deadly weapon and go around in this woods that is around this like complex compound, like little community that the whole dream took place in. And we're going to go in the woods and we just decided that we're going to do this like fatal game where we just, the last man standing sort of thing. And then like we're about to start that, and I see that one of the guys who is really large has gotten this huge axe, and I'm going to have to decide, what my weapon's going to be. And I just say to him like, that's going to be it's going to suck fighting you with that big axe. Like like all you have to do is have one good swing, and my life is over. And I'm just like to everybody, can we just not do this? Can we just do something else instead? And everybody was like, yeah, most all of us except one of us were about to die. Yeah, let's not do that. And the guy with the axe was kind of like, he was like, really ready to go, like really wanted to, but he even at the end was like, all right, yeah, I guess that was a stupid idea. So I remember that from the beginning of the dream. And then a bunch of stuff that I can't remember, but I remember there's this sense of that we're leaving this place to go back to our normal lives. But it's not like a festival or Burning Man. It's like a community, like a community in the. I know somebody who's got a situation like this, but this was like bigger. This was like a little off the grid city community, but like really low population, like less than 100 people living in a place, but enough that where you're living like in a little community, a little outpost. And it was beautiful, and it was like a place that you wanted to be, and we're like really cool shit was happening. But anyway, at the end of the dream, I don't really remember a lot of the middle of the dream. I just remember at the end of the dream, there's this moment where there's this girl who is like saying to me in no uncertain terms that your leaving here does not mean the end of our connection. In fact, I'm going to where you live soon, and we're gonna have a a sustained, like, steady stream of love and certainty that you've felt being here. Like, and then it was like tearful and like kind of frantically embracing, as if, yeah, as if like some of the goodbye embraces where, you're not seeing somebody for a really long time or maybe ever. And uh and it was interesting because I had like written, before I went to bed, I had written something of like what was bugging me. And one of the things was never having, like, always feeling like anything with feeling, the deep inner cloisters of not aloneness has always been fleeting in my life, and is always concluded with something that was a mirage, or going home at the end of the festival, or just not sticking to the, not remaining. Yeah, so it's interesting. That was like the one thing that I wrote before I went to bed last night, was about like, what do you think is bugging you? And then in my dream, I have this experience of this dream character that is not, I she kind of looked like somebody that I met the other day, or and like was maybe like the same character, but it wasn't like, because usually in dreams it's so weird when somebody is supposed to be a certain identity, like they'll even be inanimate objects where it's like, that's this person in your life, weird things like that. So there wasn't a sense, so it was a true dream character, really. Like, that's always interesting, to have a relationship with a dream character, like where there's like depth to it, and they're surprising you with their behaviors, as humans in reality often do.
You know what's funny? Dreams. So one of the things that bipolar people or schizophrenic people, or I would also say to a certain extent OCD people, like people with they say that it's a severe mental illness, but like people with these kind of illnesses have these medications that are called antipsychotic medications, and these are olanzapine, Seroquel. These two are like the main ones. And when you take them and go to bed, they give you such realistic, cut edge dreams that you really cannot differentiate if it really happened or did not. Like the other day, I dreamt that my Apple Pencil of my iPad was all twisted up, or like some, like it got broken or some shit like that. And I literally, when I woke up, and I was like, okay, yeah, like that memory of that dream was so much present in my head that I really thought that it was the way that, that I dreamt. And but it wasn't. Like I found my pen, and I was like, wow, so that was a dream. And that's the point where I realized that that was a dream. When I picked up the object, I had no clue that I had a dream like that. So with antipsychotics, it's very interesting what's happening there, because it's either that the chemical imbalance in your head combined with this new chemical is producing a certain behavioral affect, where you just cannot differentiate between what is real and what is not. It's insane that that can happen. I'm hammered, so I'm trying to make sense. But also, another thing is, I'm more of an affective person. So, like, I feel like there are two kinds of people, and this is making a very generalized claim, but some people are very attuned to their emotions, and they can feel things. So, they would try to describe things with their hands, or you know they wouldn't even be able to describe things with words, but they're feeling it. And then there are other people, second kind, who can do that perfectly, but they cannot feel, in the moment. So I feel like I'm more of an affective person. Like there's a lot of things that I want to get out of me, but I simply cannot because they're too deeply felt that it just cannot be communicated, or like outrightly communicated, like just out of nowhere. So there's always this depth present, but something really interesting with this is happening. I don't know, well, I don't know if there's enough research on this or not, but there should be some research because I did try to find subjective reports of people who've taken these medications, and what they have said. They've all said that we get these very real dreams. It's insanity. Like, I'm pretty sure, if I know that these meds are prescribed and stuff like that, but if someone was to consume this, and again, disclaimer, I'm not promoting drugs, but if someone was to consume this and experience that lucid dreaming state, it could be revolutionary, or it could be very, like, I don't even have words to describe it, but what I'm trying to basically say, that if someone was to consume this, they would realize and this is another genre, the depth of what dreaming really is. Like we see movies like Inception and we're like, wow, but you take these and it's Inception. It really is Inception. Like I have so many real dreams, it's insane, to the point now that I genuinely try to be like, okay, was this a dream or did it really happen? Like, like I'm just like deciding between one or the other. I don't know, have you ever consumed a substance or a chemical of some sort which has this effect that you cannot differentiate between two things?
Mm. I would love to be able to plan to lucid dream. I, I have a lot of fun. Mostly flying. Sometimes other things, but mostly flying. It's funny that it usually, as soon as you become aware, because but the flying is because of the franticness of it, and how many experiences I've had before where you become lucid and you try to do something else, and it does nothing's nailed down. So you wake up, everything something happens, like in its inception, where the world comes apart and you wake up as soon as you try to, as soon as you're in the act of trying to make the dream go the way you want to, or engage in an activity that you want to in the dream. So usually it's like I become aware that I'm lucid, or I get the inkling that I might be lucid. And the way that I verify that is by stepping off the ground and flying. And just this one push up. Sometimes it's like I I kick jump myself up and come back down, and then like, wait, let me give it another try and do it again. And now I'm flying, and now I'm actually controlling how I'm flying. And there's a sense of precariousness to it. Like I don't really have as much control as I'd like, but I fly. Sometimes I fly I bound far and wide, and I fly.
Have you ever had a sleep paralysis episode?
Numerous.
It's
Numerous.
nuts. It's crazy. Like I remember, so the first time I had it, it was I was coming down from a MDMA trip, and I was in my dorm room, right, and I felt, as if something was suffocating me. So I was like, okay, and then I was like, okay, I can't move anymore. So I opened my eyes. For some reason, I can't open my eyes, and what I see is this shadow figure, literally just at my door, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like something is there, right? And then I just like kind of like close my eyes just to, because I just want to face that kind of reality. And I open them again, and I see, I'm not even kidding, a shadow figure. I cannot see it, but I see that it has like arms, and like it has legs, and like it has a head, and a guy with like a hat, not like this kind of hat, but like this kind of hat, like the circular ones. And he's just sitting there with one of his hands on my thighs. So I was just like, and then all of a sudden I'm like back to my actual awareness, my actual consciousness, and I'm just like, holy shit, I hallucinated a ghost. And that was the first time, and and then I've had like two, three, maybe four more of these, and every time I've hallucinated some entity. Like just once, I almost astral projected. I think that's what it's called. Um, when you almost feel like, so I'm sitting here, but I feel like my soul, or like whatever this intrinsic thing, qualia, is inside my consciousness, which is making me have the subjective experience, got out of my body and then came back. So it was so weird, because that's what they call like astral projection or something like that. When you're in a lucid state of dreaming, you can almost feel as if your body is in one state and your soul came out. And so that happened, and I was just like, that's weird. That's something that is eye opening.
Mm-hmm.
But what about your sleep paralysis episodes? How are they like?
Oh, that's been a defining thing of my life since I was 16 years old. I am terrorized in my sleep by myriad villains of history, as well as sometimes family members. Like the hallucination of evil, a family member turned evil. Because it really does seem like it is designed to be as horrible as possible. Sometimes it's more abstract, and sometimes it's just you can't move and you're afraid about it. And there's nothing happening in the room yet. Sometimes there is no shadow golem or fucking name a historical figure that you wouldn't want to be terrorizing and molesting you, and just you lie. Then I've had it happen. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. And there's been moments where, like on Clubhouse last year, I don't know if I talked to you at a time where I couldn't for weeks, like it seemed like it was happening every night, and it wasn't letting me sleep. And that's alarming. It's like that, and to be afraid to sleep, because what the hell is going on with that? That's not a small thing. And I got to the point where I was really desperately asking all different schools of thought for, like, what can I do to make it so this doesn't happen? Which became the question of, is there something that because then okay, I'll tell you the spiritual and the science perspective on this, like this, the neuroscience, like really left brain logical, like we're not getting wooey with it. Neuroscience, like folks that I talk to, say that it is nothing more than you're not piercing into deep sleep like in the way you're normally supposed to. You're getting caught in this like purgatory between awake mind and deep dreaming mind. And so you just need to exercise in the morning more and just do things that'll make it so you go into sleep fast, because for whatever reason you're getting trapped in this purgatory between. But it's not just that, like, it's this, because I am convinced this can be pleasant, that sleep paralysis can be pleasant. But what keeps happening is I freak out once I realize that I'm paralyzed. It's very hard not to freak out when you realize that you're paralyzed, and that anything has and could come into the room and start doing stuff to your helpless body. you know, like Jesus Christ. I've had it hundreds of times, and I mean, I don't know how I would say what's different from that experience and waking experience. You feel pain. I mean, maybe it's not at the same amount of pain because I've been stabbed, and I was like, okay, like I can feel that, but it's a prodding. And then I've been stabbed in dream world. I haven't been like thoroughly stabbed. I mean, everybody's been like jabbed by something in their life, but yeah, in dreams, like there are claws and blades, and it's just so bad. It hasn't been so macabre in a while. For lately, really, it's almost like it's stopped trying to get me with scary monsters and scary people. It's like, all right, we've already ran that program so many times. Like, how about now you're just gonna lie there terrified and you can't move. And you've had this happen 100 times before, so it's nothing. You're not even alarmed by it anymore, you know? Because I know if I just do this thing where I just kind of like am trying to move my head and take a breath, or usually it's like I'm trying to yell, I'm trying to go help. And people have been there before with me during this. And who was it? There's somebody she said, I said, it was bad. It was like something that you say as a demon is doing stuff to you. It was like, I'm gonna have to remember the exact phrase. I'll ask her because it was pretty haunting. It's like you were shouting this in your sleep in your kind of sleep last night with your eyes open. Fucking shit.
Imagine, right? Someone is sleeping next to you, and you're up, you're on your laptop, whatever, and they wake up, or no, they do not wake up. They're just like sleeping, and they start chanting Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah.
That happens, you're like, whoa, you know, like that is something weird. But
Does that happen to you?
no, but if that happens, dude, I would just be like, what the fuck? But it would be so interesting. But Finnegan's Wake is so
people that experience.
yeah, but do you get hypnagogic imagery in your sleep?
Give an example of something definitively hypnagogic.
So I am about to go to bed. My eyelids are closed, and I'm in this liminal state of consciousness where I'm almost about to reach the sleeping stage. So I get like these visuals, right, which are geometric in nature. Uh, so like Star of David, kind of like expanding out, or certain spiders on sides of my visual field, or these things called Tetris effects, which is basically like you have these long-term memory images flash in front of you, or like you re-experience something like that, and you're just like in a confused state, basically that you hallucinate.
Yeah, that's kind of what sleep paralysis is like, only it's most people say it's decisively unpleasant, but that's because of the paralysis part. There's something about being suddenly helpless, but that state of like, I experienced that like before crashing, like tumbling into a hotel sometimes. Like I am effectively tired. I am ready to do the sleep thing. And I'm kind of already doing it as I'm walking up these stairs and stuff and through these hallways. I'm like already kind of dreaming. That's pleasant. I wanted to say though that I said the science part. So the science perspective that I usually got for like the neuroscientists and sleep doctor people would just say you're getting caught in this interim between awake and deep sleep, and it's this purgatory, middle space that's weird, but just set yourself up to be so tired that when you fall down you truly sleep. And that makes a lot of sense of why that's happening to me, because it really just seems so much in my life. Like I am the one who was supposed to be alert at night, and sometimes I guess maybe my lineage was the night watchman or something like that, because I am just it really seems like I'm supposed to sleep every other day. Really, it really seems that way. But anyway, the spiritual response to what's going on with this sleep paralysis and what to do about it. There people have been saying for hundreds of years about this, and everybody says that there's something that's attacking you. And the experience is of something much like that. And you know, I had a crying embrace with a very loving, beautiful, like pleasant, like trusted dream character last night in a dream. That's very pleasant. And that's, you know, that's a maybe not a consciousness, but at least an experience of, I don't want to feel nice saying that wasn't a consciousness. But anyway, but yeah, dream characters, whether pleasant or demon torturing you, like coming from the same pool of creativity, right? Or is it creative? But anyway, what somebody said that you should try to do, and I have heard this from multiple people now, is just try not to don't freak out when you have sleep paralysis. Don't and if you can do that, you can control your anxiety in your waking state, because it's just there's this signal of anxiety, and then there's the worry of, if I'm feeling anxious and I'm also like, my mind is what's generating what happens in this dream, then there should probably be a demon walking into that door now. You know, like, that just makes sense. Like, what goes with anxiety? Oh, terrible things. And my brain has now sprung a leak of terrible things, apparently. So yeah, they say to just relax. And I did have an experience of trying to relax, and that's and that let's just say that didn't go well. But I am convinced that there's something to that if I could relax and, like, because at some point, right, whatever's happening in the dream, you can just be not just decide not to feel anxious about it. Maybe even make it funny. Maybe even like the Harry Potter with the spell ridiculous. You know, like, maybe I could just, like, I could get a sense of humor about. I have a sense of humor when I talk about it awake. I don't get. I never talk about this in a boohoo woe is me sort of way, because it isn't real. I wake up with no wounding or anything like that. I just didn't get good sleep, and then I have to. And every now and then I'll tell somebody in reality, it's like, hey man, I have this I've repeated experiences of being brutalized and terrorized by monsters as I lie not asleep.
I've hallucinated entities like literally jumping on a fucking table in front of me. Like, that was the last sleep paralysis episode I had. So bizarre, so bizarre. I'm like, literally, I cannot move, all of that stuff. But it's so weird that you can open your eyes and see that you are in this paralyzed state, and there are entities here, which you're definitely hallucinating because of your anxious self. But it's weird that, because I've heard that some people cannot open their eyes, but there's a bunch of people who can open their eyes, and that's why they hallucinate. And what's even more interesting is I was like looking this entire experience up on Reddit and just on the internet, and I found that a lot of people see the same kind of hallucinations. So it's almost as if these hallucinations are archetypal, right? So the shadow guy, the shadow man with the hat, a lot of people see that. So you can say that that's an archetype that tends to arise during these sleep paralysis episodes. Also, there's this painting by someone that I cannot recall the name of, where they show you that there's a demon just like sitting on your chest, on a woman's chest, and she's just like lying there like that. And it just like brilliantly encapsulates in a 15th century way the realized moment of what it feels like to have a sleep paralysis episode.
I know, I'm familiar with that painting. Yeah. What the fuck? And maybe it's something that could really be used to one's benefit, though, because I mean, yeah, this is my theory on it. Because my brain generates theories about everything that happens to me, especially if it happens frequently and has become a definitional part of my life. I like, and I seen you post a thing before saying I am not a bipolar person. I have bipolar disorder. I like to not to say I have as opposed to I am, but it's like these things are criteria that you meet. I may not always, but as of now, I kind of am a person who experiences sleep paralysis. And back to the positive, the potential positive, I think, is that, and I think this has already had this positive effect on me in a lot of ways. But it could be taken a lot further. I don't ask for that right now, though. I would like to get good sleep the next couple of nights and not have to face my fears and shit. But like if you're experiencing so much havoc in your sleep, then I mean that I could see how that would have you develop the ability to have more of a sense of humor about a sense of humor, or it's just a sense of resilience. But I would call my resilience humor. I just like I just well, humor and beauty, but comedy is that as well as having a good humor about something. Mortality, even you don't have to be like crack. Oh, we all die, but like you just have a good humor about it. You're just like, hey, that happens. It's gonna happen to me, you know, um, and that's a better way to live than man. If I were to be woe is me about this shit, that would be so like pathetic. It's like this guy's walking around like every time I try to sleep, these fucking monsters. I guess that is a totally valid thing to, to whine about sometimes, but I just keep getting attacked by monsters when I try to go to sleep. I do.
Well, it's interesting because like for me it doesn't happen that often. So whenever it happens for me, it's just like fuck, like like I'm in this paralysis state and I'm hallucinating, and it's always very interesting because I tend to hallucinate entities, like some sort of weird fucking shit happening around me. And it's because every time it makes me wonder whether what I'm hallucinating could be actually true, you know? Because the first time it happened to me, I was just so what would you even call awestruck? Like I was just like wow, like that happened. I literally saw a shadow guy on the door, then literally one guy just like sitting here, and I hallucinated that. But what if I did not? What if that's the thing? What if the paranormal um, world is an actual thing and we don't necessarily know because we try to intellectualize it everything and be like, okay, this is just your brain and neurochemicals doing something. But it raises the question of what if. And never before in my life, prior to that period of time, I had felt as if I would doubt reality in that way, that I would think that maybe there's another reality out there which is paranormal in nature. But that one time I was just like thinking for once, because then I went deep down on the internet about these entities that people see and like what it means and like blah blah blah, like all the esoteric stuff. And I don't know, I just got submerged into it, and I realized that yeah, there's an astral plane. So in the esoteric theory of dimensions, right? So there's like 12 dimensions and like 11 dimensions, and the 11th dimension is this transcendence, astral plane kind of realm. And I think having a sleep paralysis episode, um, and experiencing something like that, but also like feeling your body like that, definitely means that you went from a certain dimension of spiritual sense into completely another one, or like just like one step more. It just like feels like that.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what I think about this. I think that I experience more and more that reality there is something that you don't have to call God, but there is something like you could call it a program. You could call it a program. You could this thing's program is it likes to make things interesting. It's making little movies. And also sometimes I think this is a super psychedelic thought, but sometimes I think and experience strange things on psychedelics where it seems like much like in a movie or a show like a Game of Thrones or something where there's multiple characters of interest who become the main character at different moments. They're in completely different places, having completely different experiences, and boom, now the camera is behind this one's eyes and this one's eyes. And there's something kind of going on like that sometimes. And I experience that in dreams intensely sometimes, where now I'm suddenly the other one. I'm suddenly the other character, or just other characters. And but back to the idea of like some grand orchestrator sort of program, doesn't need to be a consciousness. I don't know. I am not one of the thinking that it gets mad at me for not believing in it. Like, but in a way, it kind of does. In my experience of this, it is that if you get boring, you're like you're kind of punished for it. But that's just also how life happens. If you're boring, then you're in this like hellscape of boring reality. It's like, yeah, but it's not good to live like knowingly dissatisfied. Dreams, dreams. It's a movie. It's a fucking paranormal. Oh yeah, when you said about like, I'm not sure if the paranormal reality just exists on top of this one. I'd like that's because I think, does it exist behind this one? Does it exist on? Because I would say that like the Jungian or like Joseph Campbell way of thinking about it is that it exists on top of this one, right? I guess I could use that phrasing that it's like you've got these archetypes and understandings, and you're organizing your reality around a story and a framework. And so now you've got a shadow man. Now you've got uh, some people say that there is a, can you say archetypalize, archetype, that you make an archetype out of grand concepts and entities in the world, like like the government. Like some people seem to experience and criticize the government as tyrannical father. Others seem to criticize and fear and dislike the government as a consuming mother. Like it's gonna baby us to the point where we're letting it order us around for our safety. Like some people's fear of the government is that. Other people's fear of the government is that it's gonna tell me what to do. It's gonna it's weird because it's such a weird bifurcation. It doesn't really make any fucking sense to what the problems that we actually need to be looking at these days. But anyway, fucking you archetypalize the things in your life. You give them, and everybody's probably not, maybe not everybody, but I feel like a lot of us have like a living Satan in our lives, like someone that we designate as like, that's the fucking devil in the flesh, um and I think people do that who would never say in a way that suggests that they think that the paranormal reality is an objective one, behind our reality. There's people who don't think that about archetypes like Satan or angel and stuff like that, but they're using those archetypes. They don't, you don't realize. You see a movie that you really love and you see it 1,000 times, maybe not 1,000, but there's movies that I've seen fucking probably well over 100 times, and they start to be this big component of your psyche, and the characters in it become the archetypal lens through which you observe certain characters or things like the weather or the government. Sort of deal.
So for Jung, all of your archetypes lie in the collective unconscious. So it's very interesting because when he tries to describe what dreams are, he always says that there's symbols from your deep collective unconscious present in these dreams. And that's how you can identify certain archetypes. Interesting concept. By the way, my laptop is going to die very soon.
And this has been an hour, so
Yeah. But it's interesting to see that within our dreams, amongst there are certain things that we experience which are objective throughout subjective minds. Like some people would say, I saw a shadow man. So let's say 10 people are like, yeah, we all saw a shadow man like that. Or I don't know, someone says that we um, dreamt and there was a particular symbol that came up, and 10 people are like, yeah, 10, we all saw it. So it's almost as if something objective is lying underneath all of these subjective minds. I don't know what you think about it.
yeah, that's what I would mean about. Is it behind reality or is it on top of reality? Is that we're projecting it on top of a reality from the stories that are in our psyches, and even if you've stopped, your family has stopped like participating in a religion, like you've had so much of these symbols like driven into the way you map out the world that you're now experiencing it in you're overlaying it on top of an objective reality, or is it the thing that is behind reality? And it sure seems that way with high dose mushroom or regular old dose of ayahuasca or DMT. I haven't had 5-MeO DMT yet, but I hear that that's very like behind reality sort of experience. But I've had these like a friend of mine. I asked him because he's done 10, 15 gram mushroom experiences, and I was like, what is the difference in experience between 10 and 15? Like, because 5 is supposed to be the heroic dose, right? So then 10 is double that. I've had close to, if not 10. I think I've had 10. But like, what's another heroic dose on top of being? And his answer was really spooky and special. I like this. He says, well, you know how like when you're on mushrooms or when you're in the the tryptamine state, when you're in any that space, you're it's as if there's these signals, and the higher the dose, the closer to those signals you get. And then so he said a certain amount of mushrooms and you're no longer just hearing the signals loudly. You're going to the place where the signals are coming from. Happy reality.